The dim glow of fluorescent lights cast long shadows across the near-empty supermarket parking lot. A chill wind whispered through the air, carrying with it the faint scent of approaching rain. Robert Downey Jr., his collar turned up against the cold, walked briskly towards his car, keys jingling in his hand. He was eager to return to the warmth of his home after a late-night grocery run. As he approached his vehicle, a movement caught his eye. In the far corner of the lot, partially hidden by shadows, sat a beat-up sedan. Its windows were fogged from the inside, a telltale sign of human presence. Robert's curiosity got the better of him, and he found himself drawn towards the car, his footsteps echoing in the quiet night. Peering through the passenger window, his heart clenched at the sight before him. A young woman, no older than 30, sat hunched over the steering wheel. Her face, though weary, held a determined set to her jaw. In the back seat, nestled in a cocoon of worn blankets, lay a sleeping infant, his tiny fist curled tightly around a threadbare stuffed animal. The scene before him stirred something deep within Robert's soul. He had played many roles in his life, both on and off screen, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. As he stood there, transfixed by the tableau of struggle and resilience, he knew with certainty that he couldn't simply walk away. This chance encounter was about to change everything. The following evening found Robert back in the same parking lot, his eyes scanning the rows of cars. There, in the same spot as before, sat the weathered sedan. He watched as the young woman, Emily, as he would later learn, emerged from the car, her movements slow and deliberate, as if every action required immense effort. With practiced efficiency, Emily gathered a stack of shopping carts, her slim frame straining against their weight. Robert observed silently as she maneuvered through the lot, returning carts to their designated areas. The meager coins she collected clinked softly in her pocket, a pitiful reward for her labor. As Emily worked, Robert's mind raced. He wanted to help, but he knew that approaching her directly might do more harm than good. Trust, he realized, would need to be earned slowly and carefully. With this in mind, he formulated a plan, one that would allow him to offer assistance without overwhelming or frightening her. Under the cover of darkness, Robert approached Emily's car, his footsteps barely audible on the asphalt. With gentle care, he placed a bottle of mineral water and a warm blanket on the hood of her vehicle. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As he retreated to the shadows, he saw Emily return, her eyes widening at the unexpected gifts. Days passed, and Robert's covert acts of kindness continued. Each night he left something new, a bag of groceries, a warm meal, a children's book. Emily's initial wariness gave way to cautious acceptance, her tired eyes scanning the parking lot each evening, searching for her mysterious benefactor. On the fifth night, Robert decided it was time to make his presence known. As Emily collected her nightly offering, a thermos of hot soup and a loaf of fresh bread, he stepped out from behind his car. "Hello," he said softly, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I'm Robert. I hope you don't mind the gifts." Emily's body tensed, her arms instinctively tightening around the thermos. For a moment, Robert feared she might bolt, but then slowly her shoulders relaxed. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" Robert's response was simple and honest. "Because everyone deserves a helping hand sometimes," he said. "And because I couldn't walk away knowing you and your little one were out here alone." He gestured to the car, where the baby slept peacefully. "Would you like to talk? No pressure, just if you need someone to listen." Emily hesitated, her eyes darting between Robert and her car. Finally, with a small nod, she agreed. They sat on a nearby bench, the cool night air wrapping around them like a blanket. As the stars twinkled overhead, Emily's story began to unfold, each word heavy with the weight of her experiences. She spoke of her husband, Tom, a kind and loving man whose life was cut tragically short by a drunk driver. The loss had shattered her world, leaving her to navigate the complexities of single motherhood alone. But fate, it seemed, wasn't finished with its cruelties. A bitter custody battle with Tom's parents had drained what little savings they had. Emily's voice trembled as she recounted the lies and accusations hurled at her in the courtroom. "They said I was unfit," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "That I couldn't provide for Oliver, but he's all I have left of Tom. I couldn't lose him too." The final blow came when her employer, unsympathetic to her situation, terminated her position. With no job, no savings, and a baby to care for, Emily found herself with nowhere to turn. The car, once a symbol of freedom, became their only shelter. "I never thought I'd end up here," she said, her voice barely audible, "but I'll do whatever it takes to keep Oliver safe and fed." Robert listened intently, his heart heavy with the weight of Emily's story. As she spoke, he found himself in awe of her strength and determination. Despite the insurmountable odds stacked against her, she had refused to give up. Her love for her son shone through every word, a beacon of hope in the darkness of her circumstances. When Emily finished speaking, a comfortable silence fell between them. Robert's mind raced with possibilities, ideas forming and taking shape. He knew he had the resources to help, but he also understood the importance of empowering Emily rather than simply solving her problems for her. "Emily," he said gently, breaking the silence, "I can't begin to imagine how difficult this has been for you, but I want you to know that you're not alone anymore. If you'll let me, I'd like to help you and Oliver find a way forward." Emily's eyes widened, a mix of hope and disbelief flickering across her face. "Why would you do that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't even know us." Robert's response was simple, yet profound. "Because sometimes the world needs a little more kindness, and because I believe in you, Emily. You fought so hard. Let me help you win this battle." The next morning, Robert arrived at the parking lot with a purpose. He had spent the night making calls, pulling strings, and setting plans in motion. As Emily emerged from her car, gently cradling a sleeping Oliver, Robert approached with a warm smile. "I have something to show you," he said, gesturing towards his car. Emily hesitated, her protective instincts kicking in. Robert understood her caution. "It's okay," he reassured her. "We're just going for a short drive. I promise you'll be back here in an hour, if that's what you want." With tentative steps, Emily followed Robert to his vehicle. He had taken care to install a proper car seat for Oliver, a detail that didn't escape Emily's notice. As they drove through the quiet streets, Robert explained his plan. "I've arranged for a room at a nearby motel," he said. "It's safe, clean, and paid up for the next month. It's not a permanent solution, but it's a start." Emily's eyes filled with tears as they pulled up to the motel. It wasn't luxurious, but to her it looked like paradise. A real bed, a warm shower, a safe place for Oliver to crawl and play. As they stood in the doorway of the room, Emily turned to Robert, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to repay you." Robert shook his head. "You don't have to. Just focus on taking care of yourself and Oliver. This is just the beginning." Over the next few days, Robert threw himself into the task of helping Emily rebuild her life. He reached out to his vast network of contacts, setting wheels in motion that would create opportunities for her. Shelters were contacted, community programs were researched, and job leads were pursued with relentless determination. Emily, for her part, began to flourish in the safety and comfort of her temporary home. The dark circles under her eyes faded, replaced by a spark of hope. She spent hours playing with Oliver on the clean motel room floor, reveling in the simple joy of watching her son explore his new environment. Robert made sure to visit regularly, always bringing supplies and information about potential opportunities. He was careful not to overwhelm Emily, understanding that she needed time to adjust and regain her footing. Their conversations grew longer and more relaxed, filled with shared laughter and tentative plans for the future. One afternoon, as they sat discussing Emily's job prospects, Robert noticed a change in her demeanor. There was a new confidence in her voice, a determination in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "I want to go back to school," she said suddenly. "I always wanted to be a nurse. Do you think that's possible?" Robert's face broke into a wide grin. "Emily," he said warmly, "I think anything is possible for you." As word of Emily's situation spread through Robert's network, an unexpected ally emerged. Sarah Chen, a prominent lawyer known for her pro bono work, reached out to offer her services. She was determined to revisit the custody case, convinced that Emily had been unfairly treated in the initial proceedings. When Robert introduced Sarah to Emily, the two women connected instantly. Sarah's compassionate yet no-nonsense approach resonated with Emily, who found herself opening up about the painful details of the custody battle. As Sarah listened, her expression grew increasingly determined. "This isn't right," Sarah declared, her voice filled with righteous indignation. "You were vulnerable and taken advantage of. But we're going to fix this, Emily. We're going to make sure you and Oliver get the justice you deserve." For the first time since Tom's death, Emily felt a glimmer of true hope. With Robert's unwavering support and Sarah's legal expertise in her corner, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, the tide was finally turning in her favor. Weeks passed, and Emily's life continued to transform. With Robert's help, she secured a part-time job at a local bookstore, allowing her to start saving money while still having time with Oliver. Sarah worked tirelessly on the custody case, uncovering new evidence that painted Emily in a far more favorable light. One sunny afternoon, as Emily was shelving books at work, her phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. With trembling hands, she opened it, her heart pounding in her chest. The message was brief, but life-changing. "We won. Full custody is yours. Congratulations, Emily." Overwhelmed with emotion, Emily sank to the floor, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face. The store owner, understanding the situation, gave her the rest of the day off. In a daze, Emily made her way to the motel, where Robert was watching Oliver. As she burst through the door, Robert knew immediately that something had changed. "Sarah called," Emily said, her voice choked with emotion. "We won. Oliver is mine. Legally, permanently mine." Robert's face broke into a wide grin, and without thinking, he pulled Emily into a warm embrace. In that moment, surrounded by the people who had become her unexpected family, Emily finally allowed herself to believe in a brighter future. In the days following the custody victory, a subtle but significant shift occurred in Emily's demeanor. The weight that had been pressing down on her shoulders for so long began to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose and determination. She threw herself into her work at the bookstore with renewed vigor, impressing her employers with her dedication and quick learning. One evening, as Emily was preparing dinner in the motel kitchenette, she caught sight of her reflection in the small mirror above the sink. For a moment, she hardly recognized herself. The haunted, desperate look that had become so familiar was gone, replaced by clear eyes and a gentle smile. She realized, with a start, that she was happy. As Oliver babbled contentedly in his playpen, Emily found herself reflecting on the incredible journey of the past few months. From the depths of despair in that cold parking lot to this moment of quiet contentment, the transformation seemed almost miraculous. And yet, she knew it was the result of hard work, perseverance, and the kindness of strangers who had become friends. With a sudden burst of inspiration, Emily reached for her phone and dialed Robert's number. When he answered, her voice was filled with a confidence she hadn't felt in years. "Robert," she said, "I've been thinking. I want to do more. I want to help other people who are in the situation I was in. Do you think we could make that happen?" Robert's response to Emily's proposal was enthusiastic and immediate. He had watched her grow stronger and more confident over the past months, and he knew that her experiences could be invaluable to others facing similar challenges. Together, they began to brainstorm ideas for a community outreach program. Emily's vision was clear: She wanted to create a support network for single parents struggling with homelessness and legal battles. She envisioned a place where people could find not just material support, but also guidance, education, and most importantly, hope. Robert listened intently, his admiration for Emily growing with every word. As they discussed the logistics of setting up such a program, Robert couldn't help but marvel at the woman before him. The frightened, desperate mother he had met in the parking lot had blossomed into a passionate advocate, determined to use her own pain to help others. It was, he realized, one of the most beautiful transformations he had ever witnessed. Their planning session was interrupted by Oliver's happy squeal as he successfully stacked a tower of blocks. Emily and Robert exchanged a warm smile, both acutely aware of how far they had come. In that moment, Robert knew with certainty that supporting Emily's vision would be his next great project. Over the next few weeks, Emily and Robert's idea began to take shape. They reached out to local charities, social workers, and community leaders, sharing their vision and gathering support. Sarah, impressed by Emily's determination, offered her legal expertise to the project, ensuring that those in need would have access to proper representation. As word of their initiative spread, something remarkable began to happen. People from all walks of life started reaching out, offering their skills, resources, and time. A local real estate developer donated office space for their headquarters. A group of retired teachers volunteered to provide tutoring services for both children and adults looking to further their education. Emily found herself at the center of this whirlwind of activity, coordinating efforts and sharing her story with those who needed to hear it most. She spoke at community centers, churches, and even a local television station, her words touching hearts and inspiring action. The scared, lonely woman from the parking lot was now a beacon of hope for others. One evening, as Emily tucked Oliver into bed, she felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. She realized that her journey, as painful as it had been, had led her to this moment of purpose. By choosing to help others, she had not only rebuilt her own life, but was now helping to rebuild the lives of countless others. A year after that fateful night in the parking lot, Emily stood before a crowd of supporters, volunteers, and beneficiaries of the now thriving community program. The small office they had started with had grown into a comprehensive support center, offering everything from temporary housing to job training and legal aid. As Emily shared her story once again, her voice strong and clear, she saw Robert standing at the back of the room. Their eyes met, and a wordless understanding passed between them. They had come so far together, from strangers united by a simple act of kindness to partners in a mission that was changing lives. Emily's speech touched on the darkest moments of her past, but it was not a tale of despair. Instead, it was a testament to the power of resilience, compassion, and community. She spoke of the strangers who had become family, of the hope that can be found even in the bleakest of circumstances, and of the strength that comes from lifting others as you climb. As she concluded her speech, Emily's gaze swept across the room, taking in the faces of those whose lives had been touched by their work. "We are all capable of extraordinary things," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us, to remind us of our own strength. Today, I stand before you not as someone who has it all figured out, but as living proof that with a little help and a lot of determination, we can overcome anything." The applause that followed Emily's speech was thunderous, filling the room with a palpable energy of hope and possibility. As the crowd began to disperse, Emily made her way through the sea of well-wishers to where Robert stood, a proud smile on his face. "You did it," Robert said, pulling her into a warm embrace. "You've changed so many lives, Emily, including mine." Emily smiled, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. "We did it," she corrected gently. "None of this would have been possible without you, Robert." As they stood there, Surrounded by the buzz of excited conversation and the tangible sense of community they had built together, Emily felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. She thought back to that cold night in the parking lot, how close she had come to giving up hope entirely. "You know," she said softly, turning to Robert, "that night when you first approached my car, I was terrified. I thought you might be there to take Oliver away from me. I never imagined you'd end up giving me my life back." Robert's eyes softened with emotion. "You gave yourself your life back, Emily. I just provided a little nudge in the right direction." Emily nodded, understanding the truth in his words. She had indeed found strength within herself that she never knew existed. But she also knew that sometimes it takes the kindness of others to help us recognize our own potential. As the last of the guests filed out, Emily and Robert stood in the quiet of the now empty room. The walls were adorned with photos of families they had helped, success stories that served as a constant reminder of the impact of their work. Emily's gaze fell on a recent addition to the wall, a photo of herself and Oliver, taken on the day she had officially become a registered nurse. It had been a long and challenging journey, but with the support of the community she now called family, she had achieved her dream. "What's next?" Robert asked, following her gaze to the photo. Emily turned to him, a spark of determination in her eyes. "We keep going," she said firmly. "There are still so many people out there who need help, who need to be reminded of their own strength." Robert nodded, a proud smile playing on his lips. "Lead the way," he said simply. And as they walked out of the building together, into the warm evening air, Emily felt a sense of peace and purpose that she had once thought was lost to her forever. She knew that there would be challenges ahead, that the work they were doing was far from over. But she also knew that with compassion, determination, and the power of community, anything was possible. As she looked up at the stars twinkling in the twilight sky, Emily silently thanked the universe for second chances, for unexpected kindness, and for the beautiful journey that had brought her to this moment. In that quiet moment, under the vast expanse of the night sky, Emily realized that her story was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. And she was ready, more than ever, to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that she was no longer alone.